Prince Harry's entire reputation is on the line next week because in a matter of days, just as he flies in for this very highly controversial visit, in theory, of course, for the Invictus 1 year to go celebrations in Birmingham, but in reality to try and bully, and I'm going to use that word, bully, his father and the British government to give him paid security forever, maybe using his children, Archie and Lily, in order to do so, certainly using his wife in order to do so, although I believe she is part of this plot very much. But his reputation could be destroyed, of course, if he is criticised by the judge at 2 p.m. on Tuesday, UK time, for lying under oath, for committing perjury, by claiming that he knew nothing of Charlotte G. String Griffiths, now the editor-at-large of the Mail on Sunday, when indeed their Facebook messages revealed a very intimate relationship. Lauren, the insider, has her own theory about the timing of this announcement. But before we get to her, I just want to lay out exactly what is going to go down on Tuesday. Newsweek reporting that the judgment could well impact this visit, because if Harry wins against the Daily Mail, it would provide a positive backdrop. If he loses, it could intensify what is already a highly charged period. Harry would then have to undertake public visits at which he will be heavily scrutinised for any sign of emotion. And as I have reported throughout this week, and you can go back and watch the videos for details, Harry is already in the midst of a breakdown, even though he's meant to be on a pleasant family holiday to Portugal. I think it is a breakdown which has been exacerbated by the use of legal drugs, including psychedelics and marijuana, which are legal in both California and Portugal. While Harry and Meghan demand special treatment and attack the royals, the mainstream media still protects them. On Outspoken, I call it out with no bias. So subscribe right now for the full story every day. Jack Royston goes on, there will be journalists at his events, but no Daily Mail journalists are expected to take on the more intimate pool positions available. So what that reveals, and Lauren will get into this too, is that Harry is already controlling the narrative, because public figures are not meant to pick and choose which journalists follow them around. Harry's visit, Royston says, is an opportunity to build relationships with his father, introduce his children to the country of his birth, and draw attention to several of his major charitable initiatives. The one major issue that could get in the way is the charged emotional backdrop. If the ruling on Harry's security left him distraught, then there is reason to anticipate that losing the case, if he does lose, might have a similar impact. In that respect, an adverse ruling in his lawsuit could complicate the visit. Now, Lauren, this verdict is due to be delivered publicly on Tuesday at 2 p.m. Now, I've been involved in very high-profile cases like this. Very often, you only get an hour's notice. So you will be told an hour beforehand. The lawyers might know earlier, and some lawyers maybe break the rules, but officially, the people who are actually involved in the case and are not part of the legal teams will only be told 1 hour before this goes public, which means Harry could find out about this at 1 p.m. He is then due to address Chatham House in London at 2 p.m, the moment this verdict goes public. Now, your view, Lauren, is that this is not a coincidence. What do you mean by that?
Okay, so first of all, Harry knew when everything was happening because he booked the flights. The trip to the UK was announced some time ago. I had the story from someone on the 17th of June that he was flying in for the court verdict before it was announced. And I didn't do anything with it because I wasn't 100% sure. I now believe that, yes, he was given the heads up on this, and everything feels highly curated where Harry's going to be at the time of this announcement. And, oh, what is it? It's wrapping himself in charity and philanthropy. At the end of the day, I just want to remind Outspoken viewers, what we have to do is we have to remember the mainstream media cannot be trusted. I personally don't trust Prince Harry either. So when we strip those out, what are we left with? We're left with timings. We're left with evidence. And it's very strange, Dan, isn't it, that this is all, what are we supposed to believe? It's all a coincidence that Harry's court verdict is being announced the day he arrives into the country. Was meant to believe that was just a coincidence, and we're meant to believe that when it's announced, he is doing some do-gooder charity work. I'm not buying it.
The problem is, Lauren, that this court case could have quite a complicated verdict in some ways, because of course, as that operational note shows, there's a whole load of other claimants from, Elton John and David Furnish to Baroness Lawrence, who've all been drawn into this very tangled web. And Harry could almost win on a technicality, but still have his reputation shredded by the judge. So we're going to be looking out for all of that, and we'll be hosting a special live edition of Outspoken at 3 p.m. UK time on Tuesday. So that is 1 hour after the verdict. We're pulling together a superstar panel because I think it's really important that we can bring some truth to what this verdict represents, because there's going to be so much spin going on, Lauren, from Harry's team to try and paint what might look like a win, when actually it's a loss. Because remember, Lauren, all of this case for him was scripted and was planned.
Just when it seemed Prince Harry's legal battles were beginning to quiet down, a new wave of headlines has reignited public debate. This time, the focus isn't on a royal event or a television interview. Instead, it's on allegations raised in connection with ongoing legal proceedings and questions about statements made during litigation. Some commentators have gone as far as suggesting the controversy could damage Prince Harry's credibility. Others argue that the headlines are running far ahead of what the legal record actually shows. So what's really happening? What do the available court documents indicate? And why has this latest development sparked such intense discussion online? Let's take a closer look. Prince Harry has spent the past several years involved in a number of high-profile legal cases involving newspapers, privacy, security, and other issues. Those cases have attracted extraordinary media attention, with almost every court filing and judicial comment generating fresh headlines. Recently, renewed scrutiny has centered on whether statements made during one legal matter are consistent with information presented elsewhere. Some critics have argued that inconsistencies should be examined, while Harry supporters caution against treating disputed interpretations as proven wrongdoing. At the heart of the discussion is an important distinction. Allegations made in legal arguments are not the same as findings made by a court. As reports circulated, social media quickly became divided. Some commentators claimed the issue raised serious questions about Prince Harry's credibility. Others pointed out that legal disputes frequently involve competing interpretations of evidence, witness statements, and timelines.
I'm glad you said that, because I've interviewed Glenn Mulcaire, the former royal phone hacker, but he's also a key expert witness and has been for 14 years. Now, he was due to be a witness in this very case. And for anyone that wants to watch it, it's on my channel. But he couldn't be a witness because they had pre-drafted his statement, he alleges. And so when I pushed Glenn on this, he was incredibly open. And I said, what do you mean they pre-drafted? And Glenn wasn't going to have his own witness statement written for him. It was either take my witness statement and my witness statement in full, and he received threats. He claims he was bullied, and this is not just gossip. This ran nationally. This is factually within the public domain. Harry's team very much seem to be rather bullish and go about things in a very combative way. So what this verdict, will bring, we don't know, but it's a tricky situation because, yes, the media ethics back in the day were very, very bad. But Harry, by all accounts from my interview with Glenn, Harry's team wanted to ultimately chop up.
100%, this was PR.
Glenn's truth.
Yeah, because Lauren, I mean, you'll remember here on Outspoken, what we did was actually use AI to recreate his exact words in court. And his final words, which, by the way, ended with him, tearing up and it all looked like he was acting, were about Meghan Markle. which is completely nuts, given that all of the accusations in the case dated back years and years before he had even met Meghan Markle. And it's irrelevant, Lauren, whether that's true or not. I mean, of course, I think it's completely untrue. Meghan Markle creates all of this attention, wants all of this attention. But even if it were true, Lauren, you're in a court of law. It's like Meghan Markle is completely irrelevant to this case. And that's why my claim, Lauren, is that this is all PR for Prince Harry. And I think it has been cooked up with James Holt, a lot of it. Now, he's an interesting
James
one.
Holt, who's now come to the Liberal Democrats.
Yes,
great.
The Trump-hating Liberal Democrats. And I wanted to show you this, Lauren. I don't know if you've seen it, but this was actually posted on James Holt's social media. So he's a gay man, James Holt, and I assume that that is his child and his husband. We don't know that for a fact. But remember, James Holt, as you say, now a political operative within the heart of the Westminster system here in the UK. And all of this trial, I believe, was used as an attempt to turn around Prince Harry's PR. That's why there is so much riding on this verdict.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think you shouldn't rule out as well. There'll be a sob story show on Netflix with Harry after. Yes, I know that Netflix have got a case-by-case deal with them. They're not interested in anything about cookie queens or polo, but a sob story from Prince Harry, they may be interested in that. James Holt is also, like you said, now political director for the Liberal Democrats. You mentioned that he's back in politics, but actually let's look at the fact that Harry and Meghan have been incredibly political for years when they shouldn't have been. And this is turning people against the monarchy, particularly when King Charles is silent on many, many things that he should not be silent on. And James Holt, as the Royal Grift has so excellently covered on her channel, he's been behind everything that Harry and Meghan have done. This censorship crusade, this agenda they're pushing for globalist elites and philanthropists. I believe it's James behind this. And that is very, very concerning. The fact that that political power is being used with Harry and Meghan. I don't like that one bit.
Well, I mean, there's so much hypocrisy. This is the thing. Like, how could anyone with a straight face actually say that this has worked? Like, look at this from Queen Esther this week. Prince Harry, you should be really, really worried, concerned and cautious about putting photographs of your children online. Meanwhile, Meghan's Instagram is full of Archie and Lily. Do Harry and Meghan ever have these conversations at home, or do they only happen when there's a camera and a microphone in front of him? Either Harry doesn't believe what he's saying or Meghan doesn't, because someone in that house keeps making the decision to put those children online. And she made the point, and I really think this is very effective looking at this, Lauren, because again, let's just use their own words sometimes, right? Let's use Harry's own words with then what ends up online.
But this is why, okay, people think there's such a disconnect and the hypocrisy is so clear with Harry and Meghan. The reason why is because when they went to California, somewhere along the line, they got in with Mark Benioff, the owner of Time, and various other globalist philanthropists who are all pushing this censorship agenda. Harry and Meghan, I don't think give two hoots about this censorship. They are being given this script and they are letting it play out on the world stage. That is why this came out of nowhere. And they're clinging on to censorship to try and give themselves some relevance in the public domain. If you take away their censorship crusade, and if you take away Invictus, what are you left with? You're left with some manky old jam that no one wants. And so this is exactly why Harry and Meghan are desperate to cling on to philanthropy and these ridiculous censorship crusades, because they get to tour the world, don't they? Having talking points. Australia, Geneva, all of these places. She wasn't there talking about strawberries. She was there talking about this exactly the same kind of script that Keir Starmer's pushing, the Prime Minister, or soon to be ex-Prime Minister.
Lauren, I was about to say there is such a leftist pressure building over this. Like Sky News in Australia pulling out Tessa Dunlop, you know, the left-wing historian, saying the king would have used his millions to pay for Prince Harry's security if he really wanted to play happy families with his man-child son. Charles has the means, but clearly not the willpower to make good on a Prince Harry demand that has thrown his long-awaited trip back to the UK with his wife Meghan into complete disarray. But I just wanted to use an example with you, Lauren, of Catherine, the Princess of Wales, at Wimbledon this week. And ironically, it was woke ITV News that had to report on the fact that her trip was something that Harry would say was too unsafe. So, Lauren, again, you know, it just shows you if you just go about your business.
What I love, Dan, is the fact that Catherine, she's just so cool. So she decides to not sit in the royal box. It's like, no biggie, I actually want to just be with real people. Harry would be desperate. But remember when he went recently to the basketball game and he was on like the back row, he couldn't get anywhere near the front. This is the difference between them. Catherine is so classy, she is so cool, and the reason that, you know, she's able to go about her business and not be in danger is because, unlike Harry, Catherine hasn't done a book gloating about things, and Harry is
gloating about her Taliban kill count.
Yeah, exactly.
And also like putting her hand up and saying, I'm totally unprotected. Come and attack me. It's like, look, Lauren, what Harry has done, I believe, is choose to make himself a permanent risk in the United Kingdom. That is what he wanted to do. Lauren, let's have a bit of a palate cleanser and speak about the real royals, because there has been some great news this week. Sophie and Prince Edward, so the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh, proudly posing with Lady Louise Windsor, who's 22, in new official portraits after she graduated from St. Andrews in front of her boyfriend Felix. And what was so lovely about this is the royal family actually announced the news on its official X account, posting congratulations to Lady Louise on her graduation from St. Andrews University. Lady Louise was joined by her parents, the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh, as they celebrated the end of her degree. And they are just a really lovely, normal family, Lauren.
I think that is so great. And I love the fact that Lady Louise is such a great shining example to young women as well. She's not like Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie. She's not materialistic. She's not a grifter. She's not out for herself. She's very, very low-key, hardworking. And this is a proper royal. This is someone that girls should be looking up to. And she's a credit to the royal family and to her parents.
Here earlier this week, he raised his interview with you. And I mean, he's of the view that Charles should be, removed from the throne as a result of this. So certainly it has caused a lot of issues this week.
I mean, can I say the irony as well, Dan, that Harry is so worried about his security and certain threats. Well, one of the things that is a safety mechanism for us all is a constitutionally Christian country. And so when that removes, Father Calvin and many people have said that becomes replaced with something else.
Well, it's so interesting, isn't it? Because it's like, Harry, where's the terror threat coming from? Of course, he tried to say, oh, it's coming from the far right. No, it's not. No, it's not. If there's any terror threat, Harry, towards you, it's an Islamist threat. And you should wake up.
Well, Harry uses the same wording time and time again as the government. He used it when he did his New Statesman piece the day after the King's speech. It echoed everything that the government was saying. And the minute I saw far right pop up, I thought, oh, right, there we go, Harry. Isn't that just fitting in with the narrative? It's absolutely ludicrous. He's brought this all on himself. And I think for his safety, he should stay in America.
Absolutely. We don't want
America.
You. Like, look, no. But that's the point, Lauren. To end the week, that is the fundamental point. Harry, you've caused all of this drama. There is no public demand. There is no public demand to have you. I actually love that idea of why does Zara and Mike Tyndall not take over the Invictus Games. It would be so much better.
Yeah. I mean, what's interesting is I didn't see Harry talk about, his safety fears when he was in Jordan being photographed with Hamas sympathizers. Yet again, Harry cherry picking things that suit the narrative.
Court proceedings often include arguments from both sides that are vigorously challenged before any conclusions are reached. Legal experts also note that perjury is a specific legal concept. It generally requires more than identifying an inconsistency or contradiction. Whether that legal standard is met depends on the evidence and, ultimately, the court, not on public commentary or headlines. That distinction has become central to the debate surrounding this latest story. But here's where the story becomes even more interesting. The real question may not be about one allegation. It may be about how years of legal battles have shaped public perceptions of Prince Harry himself. Since stepping back from royal duties, Prince Harry has become one of the most closely watched public figures in the world. His legal actions against sections of the British press have been presented by supporters as efforts to challenge unlawful media practices and protect personal privacy. Critics, however, argue that frequent litigation inevitably invites greater scrutiny of his own public statements. Every new filing, hearing, or judicial decision is examined not only by lawyers but also by journalists, commentators, and millions of people online. That means even procedural developments can quickly become major public stories. For Prince Harry, many of these legal cases are about more than individual disputes. He has repeatedly said that he believes challenging certain media practices is a matter of principle and accountability. Supporters see his willingness to pursue lengthy court battles as evidence of determination. Critics question whether the strategy has exposed him to additional legal and reputational risks. Regardless of where people stand, the emotional intensity surrounding these cases reflects the unique position Harry occupies, as both a member of the royal family by birth and a private individual pursuing legal claims. But perhaps the biggest takeaway isn't whether one side wins the public debate today. It's whether the courts, not social media, will ultimately determine which claims are supported by the evidence. High-profile legal disputes often unfold in stages. Arguments are made. Evidence is challenged. Witnesses are questioned. Judges assess the facts under the relevant legal standards. During that process, headlines can sometimes emphasize the most dramatic claims before the legal issues have been fully resolved. That's one reason legal analysts often urge caution when interpreting developments in ongoing cases. The public conversation may move quickly, but court proceedings follow a structured process designed to evaluate competing claims fairly. For observers, distinguishing between allegations, legal arguments, and judicial findings is essential to understanding the story. Whatever the outcome of the broader legal proceedings, one thing is clear. Prince Harry remains a figure whose actions continue to generate extraordinary public interest. Every courtroom appearance, every legal filing, every judicial ruling, and every public response becomes part of a much larger conversation about the royal family, the media, and accountability. As more information becomes available through the legal process, the public picture may become clearer. Until then, much of the debate remains exactly that, a debate. The latest headlines have reignited discussion about Prince Harry's legal battles and public credibility. But it's important to distinguish between allegations raised in legal proceedings, arguments made by the parties, and findings actually reached by a court. As the legal process continues, those distinctions will remain central to understanding the story. Whether this controversy ultimately changes public opinion may depend less on today's headlines and more on what the evidence and judicial decisions ultimately show. What do you think about the latest developments? Do you believe the public should wait for the legal process to run its course before reaching conclusions? Or do you think high-profile public figures inevitably face intense scrutiny whenever questions are raised about their statements? Share your thoughts respectfully in the comments below. If you enjoy in-depth coverage of royal news, legal developments, and the stories shaping today's headlines, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss our next analysis.